Hello, everyone. Good evening. That was a powerful keynote by Ann Chow, and it was quite inspiring, and we plan to continue that throughout this session as well. By the way, my name is Shanti Rajaram. I am a board member of ATW, and I'm a treasurer, and I also had the recognition and advocacy chair. That's my calling. Along with me, I have Nalby, and I'll let Paola introduce her. Paola is our moderator. The session topic that we have today is Challenge Accepted and IT Executives Inspiring Story of Perseverance. So this is again a story of a leader who has gone through a lot of thick and thin to be where she is. And I'm excited to listen and get inspired again. Introducing Paola. Paola is my fellow board member at ATW. She heads the marketing, so all the promotions and everything that you guys have been seeing on various platforms, that was brought together by her team. Apart from what she does for ATW, she actually is a leader of global sales at Softtech, an IT services company. She has brought in a lot of bigger brands and also manages those engagements at Softtech. Some of them are enterprises like Microsoft and Chuck E. Cheese and TGI Fridays, Crossmark, Four Seasons. So the list is like endless. I have seen her in action. She's a powerhouse by herself. I'm so excited to have her moderate this session. Paola, I would like to bring you onto the stage to take this evening on. If any of you have any navigations or any tech issues, please use the chat window to talk to any of the ATW volunteers. Hi, Paola. And one more ground rule here. Any question and answer, please go to the Q&A tab and ask away, and we'll ensure we cover it towards the end of the meeting. All right, on to you, Paola.
Thank you. And I accidentally came on too early, but thank you so much, Shanti. And I've got to brag on Shanti because Shanti is probably one of the most kind-hearted and compassionate people I've met. And I don't know if I said thank you, but during this COVID crisis, Shanti sent these chocolate-covered pretzels to everybody. And thank you, Shanti. You're always just so fantastic to work with. And thank you for the introduction. I am part of the DFW ATW board, but it's also a volunteer board and a working board. So some of the collateral you see is definitely for my team, and the team does just a fantastic work. Lori, Jacqueline, and Lauren. I've got a Lori and a Lauren. Thank you guys for all your hard work during this time. So I appreciate each one of you. So let's get to our main event, why we're all here. Nalby. Nalby I've been a friend of hers. She accepted me. I've been a friend of hers for years, and she told me her personal story a couple years ago, and it just motivates me. I think about it often, and it really encourages me when I feel down, when I feel like I've got a roadblock, when I think that I can't do something, because let me tell you, there are women all around us. There are people that are going through things that we may or may not know of, but Nalby was courageous enough to share what her struggles were as a single mother going to college, a newlywed. Anyways, let me tell you a little bit of her professional stats. Nalby is the Director of Technology at NBC Universal Telemundo Enterprises. She is the technology liaison between Telemundo and NBC, and she is responsible for the execution of projects and initiatives most recently related to the build out of the new, all right, I'm gonna try to say this in one breath. She is responsible for the build out of the Miami Telemundo Center facility, the Telemundo Business Analytics Strategy, the NBC Universal Tech Bars, and the implementation of emerging technologies as a result of COVID. I don't know how you have the time, Nalby, and you also have the time to do this. She has 20 years of experience in IT. She's done just about every role in her IT, and she was responsible for the IT transformation for several Lockheed Martin business units. If you guys know anything about Lockheed, it is very different than Telemundo and NBC Universal. And this woman has been through a lot of industries. So she has won several awards, winning several excellence awards, of course. And she has given countless hours to organizations such as DFW, ATW, organizations like this. She's also a Miami homestead. I was going to say native, but you are not a Miami native. But that is where you live with your incredible family. And again, she's just a fantastic person to know, and you'll see why in just a second. So Nalby, if you will join me on stage so we can see your beautiful face. Hey!
Hey, Paola, you were supposed to make me cry. Thank you so much. My gosh, you're so amazing, and thank you so much for the introduction. I'm so humbled right now, and I just have to say, you are a true inspiration, and you have inspired me more than you think I have inspired you. And the truth is that when I shared some of my experiences with you, I was just having, a glass of wine with my girlfriend, was trying to encourage and lift you up, but I never thought of my life experience being so unique until you sort of brought it up. I'm sure that everyone here has a very unique story of their own, and I hope I can hear some of them later. So if it is okay, this is the first time I really shared my story in a larger room. So I'm gonna take a few minutes. I wrote it down. I wrote some key elements. And I'm going to read through some of the highlights of my journey before we start our fun fireside chat. And I have my wine so we can talk to the rest of the audience later. So I'll start now. So 3 years ago, I made the decision to leave the security of a stable job with a very prestigious organization and accepted an opportunity with my current company. Over the years, life has been very good to me. I have grown so much as a person and as a professional. But during my first business trip to New York City with my new company, I realized that life could have been very different for me. New York City is my hometown, and I have been there many times before for business and pleasure. But there was something very different and very special about that trip. I didn't book a hotel like the rest of my peers. Instead, I stayed in Harlem with my family. I took an Uber from Harlem to Rockefeller Center for my first meeting. This time was so different, guys. I was no longer the young waitress from Uptown Manhattan taking the daily 5 a.m. #1 train. And I was no longer walking through the underground hallways of the subways in Rockefeller Center. And I was no longer wearing the server uniform for work. I remember that day being so beautiful in the city. I wore a beautiful pink dress, high heels. My hair and makeup was done to perfection, as I recall, of course. I got off my Uber ride and on the corner of 49th Street and Avenue of Americas, and I entered the building through the front door. I nervously swiped my badge and went upstairs. As I walked through the hallways in the upper floors, I got this overwhelming feeling of nervousness, belonging, and a side of me questioning, how did I actually get there? That was really my moment of truth. I had just realized that I have come a full circle, from the young waitress serving coffee and breakfast to the people upstairs to now being one of them. You see, I was born and raised in El Abanico de Herrera in the Dominican Republic. El Abanico is one of the poorest neighborhoods in the DR, and I challenge you to find it on the map. We were very poor, but the funny thing is that I didn't realize how poor I really was. My parents gave us everything we needed. We always had food on the table, we had nice clothes, private school education, and the most important of all, support and a lot of love. But unfortunately, my father got sick and my mother had to move to America. She went to work as a housekeeper in New York City to be able to continue to give us a decent life. But as luck will have it, a few weeks after she left, my father passed away suddenly. I was 11 years old and my entire life fell apart that day. Although everyone rallied to support us, my siblings and I were left alone without the comfort and protection of our parents. We were 5 kids, all under the age of 17. I'll spare you the details of suffering, neglect, disappointment, until we were reunited again with our mother 5 years later. Those 5 years were the hardest years of my life, but definitely shaped me into the woman that I am today. I learned to never give up hope. I prayed every night that I would see my mom again. I learned the importance of relationships and also to advocate for myself and others. At the age of 16, my mother was able to move us all to the US. I was an honor student in the Dominican Republic, just finishing the 11th grade. But here, school was very hard, and adjusting and learning the language was very challenging. I still never gave up. I went to class every day. I took notes I didn't quite understand, and I always gave it my best. I know for a fact my efforts did not go unnoticed, and the teachers were very generous with my grades. So despite of all of my challenges, I was able to move on to the 12th grade. I worked very hard in my last year of high school, even taking summer classes to learn the language. Given that I hardly had any adults who could guide me and show me the way in the US, the counselor's office knew me by name. I would come by often to get guidance and support since I didn't really know where else to go. They felt that I had a lot of potential. I felt that, and encouraged me to apply to college. Again, I tried my best, but I barely passed the entrance exam to college due to my lack of English language skills. I was accepted to college, but I would have to take 2 years of non-credit classes before I could start real college life. And without mentors or anyone who could guide me, I decided not to go to school and get a full-time job at a cleaner's in the Bronx. I'll never forget the sense of failure, guilt, and disappointment for my mother. She had done so much for us, and there I was giving up. But at 17, I was truly thriving at the cleaners. I was managing the stores, managing the financials, and I took every opportunity to practice my English with the customers and made many new relationships. I believe they also saw something in me, as some of them advised me to go back to school. They told me about a junior college down the block, and I registered for night classes so I could continue to work. I registered, but junior college was still tough. My lack of English language skills kept getting in the way of my learning and my motivation for school. I was somewhat struggling in some of my classes, except for one class, one programming class I took as an elective. This really changed everything for me. You see, programming in itself is its own language. I was able to learn, and I became very excited about school again. I finally started to feel that language was no longer going to get in my way, and I discovered technology, which became the door to the new world for me. I quit the cleaners, and I got a new job as a hostess and a waitress at a small cafe called Savory's in the lower level of Rockefeller Center. I often used to wonder what it would be like to work in an office upstairs. I used to ask my customers what kind of jobs, what kind of skills you had to have to be able to work upstairs. Through my lens, these people look so nice and sophisticated, and I dreamed to be like them one day. While working there, I got more acquainted with the American culture. My English got a lot better. I met new friends. I finished my associate's degree in computer science, and I fell in love with the love of my life. A young man graduating from college who came to work at the cafe to make some extra cash that summer. At 20 years old, I was married. I had my first child, and the pursuit of my bachelor's degree was put on hold. By age 24, I had another child, and motherhood became my priority. Over the years, I held several jobs, from waitressing, bank teller, advertising, you name it all, and we moved several times following my husband's career. We ended up in Orlando, Florida, and with two kids, two very young kids, I decided that if I wanted to get somewhere, I had to go back to school. It was not an easy task, but I did it. 2 years later, I finally got my bachelor's degree in technology. By this time, I was almost 30 years old, and I was just starting an entry-level job for a very large company. I worked extremely hard to prove myself and move through the ranks. I had major imposter syndrome. I heard Anne talked about that. I had a constant feeling that I was behind the curve and I needed to catch up. So I always overcompensated by going the extra mile. Nothing was ever given to me, I can guarantee you that. And I worked extremely hard to get everything there. It was a tough environment for a small, soft-spoken Latina, in a male-dominated company in a male-dominated field. Oftentimes, I felt like the only woman in the room, which unfortunately has been the case in my technical career. Regardless of the environment, I did everything in my power to move up the ladder, and I was able to thrive there. 5 years later, I was recruited to work for a major healthcare provider in Central Florida, and I took that chance. With less than a year in my job, my boss confided in me and told me that he was going to move back to his family in less than 2 years. And his position will be open for anyone to step in with the right skills. He proceeded to tell me that although I was the most qualified, he couldn't add me to his succession plan because it required a graduate degree. So with 3 kids by this time and a full-time job, I decided to go to night school to get my master's. I did earn my MBA, but I never went for that job. My old company came back and recruited me. They gave me a great opportunity to go back thanks to that master's degree. So I'm very thankful for the encouragement and the guidance I received from that old boss, which without my knowledge was my champion at the time. I still wanted more though, but I had so many barriers and so many blind spots. I will try to put it delicately, but somewhere along the way, I was told that I had the right technical skills, the right operational skills, and the right leadership skills, but something very personal was lacking. While the message was given with good intent, I think, it was hard not to let this impact my self-esteem, but I just took action. I took professional and career coaching, and I also joined Toastmasters. While this was a very tough pill to swallow for me, in the end, it taught me to be more self-aware and understand my blind spots. Today, I'm thankful for the feedback, and I still believe that feedback was given to me with my best interests at heart. My life has taken some twists and turns personally and career-wise. I have had many highs and many, many lows. I have taken some risks along the way in order to grow. Like that job I took 3 years ago to work for a completely different industry. It was very scary at first, but I didn't let fear get in the way. I left the safety of that great company and moved my family to Miami. And just as I started to tell you in the beginning of my story, during my first business trip with this job, I walked through the main doors of Rockefeller Center. I swiped my badge and I went upstairs. Suddenly, it all came back to me. That young girl who was determined not to be a statistic. I remember every moment, every train ride, walking through the bowels of the building and all of the challenges throughout my life. But I did make it upstairs. So what's my message? To never let your current circumstances dictate your future. And to always remember that it's not the beginning that matters, but the ending is what matters most. Don't get me wrong. I've had a village behind me, including Paola, my mentors and champions who gave me tough feedback, my friends and my family who give me unconditional support and ensure that I stay true to my values. My 3 children who are now young adults with their own definition of success and continue to be a critical piece of every decision I make. And most importantly, my husband, that young man who stole my heart when we worked together at that cafe, and throughout the years has been my #1 supporter, my cheerleader, and my friend. And Paola, just so you know, this has been almost 30 years in the making since I was 17. Back to you.
That was absolutely beautiful. I've met Bobby, and I can attest that he is a good guy.
He's a good guy. Somewhere up there.
Now, I know this is the first time you've ever shared your personal story, so thank you so much for being vulnerable, for being courageous, and for sharing what you've been through. So thank you. So we've got a couple of questions. If you were here right now, we'd be sitting next to each other. And by the way, I do have my wine. I just moved into this house, and I've got this Dixie cup, and I got a white wine, even though you can't see it.
Yes.
Salud.
Salud.
Hey,
Hey, Shanti.
yeah, I had to come and toast with you
Oh,
guys.
hey.
So please go get yourself something, relax and listen on.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti. You only made it better. So thank you again, Nalby, because it's not easy to share our story, but it's inspired me, and I know that it can help and inspire so many people. So if you'll take a seat in my virtual chair right next to me, thank you. So I want to talk about something real, like you haven't been real enough. You were supposed to be a statistic. So according to a Pew Research study in 2000, Hispanics, the ages of 18 and 24, graduated high school at the rate of about 68%. So Hispanic graduation rate in 2000 was 68%. Of those 68% that graduated high school, only 30% went to college. We're thinking, okay, that's half, but 68% only graduated high school. Of those, 30% went on to college. And of those 30%, only 15% got their bachelor's degree. I couldn't find the exact statistic of this, but I'm positive that of those 15% that graduated, 1 to 3% who were probably in STEM. So you are a statistical anomaly. Not even considering the fact that you were a mother, you were a newlywed, you weren't from this country, you had the English, the language barrier, the cultural barrier. So how did you find the strength to persevere? You could have quit at any time. I can't even imagine having a child. I have a dog that's laying right here, and that's stressful enough. So you could have quit at any time. You could have just said, hey, Bobby's got this. I'm going to stay home, take care of the kids, which is absolutely fine and respectable. I mean, that's fantastic. But you kept going even after your died, you had your siblings, when you came to this country. How did you find the strength to do that, Nalby?
Well, you know, I think that it has been mainly the values instilled in me. I talked to my mom about it, and I almost can't remember anything past. I think I remember one good picture, one good moment before she left. And all I remember throughout my life is her sacrifices. I couldn't imagine leaving my children and going to another country because I had to provide for them. Yeah. So even though I was young and didn't understand it this way, today I recognize that my family has always been my why. Like my mother, my siblings, you know, I always looked up. It's just like when I didn't go to college, how deflated I was. And all I could think about is like, this woman had done so much. And here I am, you know, can pass this test. So I think having a good support system around me, even when I didn't even ask for it, has really been the guiding force for me. And besides, I'm a strong Latina, and I know what I want, and I always wanted more, and I always dream. I remember, as I mentioned earlier, when I was in this uniform, like thinking about something more. So I think I've been able to self-motivate myself to do a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you. And did you ever have a mantra or anything that kept you going? I wish I did. No, but you know, life for me has been very organic. It's almost like I haven't planned for anything. I actually didn't officially write, you know, like my career timeline or anything like that. And, you know, until a couple of years ago, I just been very focused on what I want, and I just go for it. I always try to give it my best. You know, it's just like going to school, going to high school and being in a history class and not knowing anything that was happening in that class. But I would just go there every day. I would write all my notes. I don't know what the heck I was writing, but I was hoping that something would stick. And I think that let that teacher feel some sort of way about me. He knew my situation and helped me out. So just being myself, being vulnerable has also allowed for others to kind of, you know, without me asking, just help me and guide me through life. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about that vulnerability and that imposter syndrome. So you have this very descriptive tale, this descriptive part of your story where you were working at the bottom floor of 30 Rock. You were working at 30 Rock, which first of all is fantastic.
It's beautiful.
No matter what you're doing, it's just symbolic.
Yes.
So you were a waitress serving up cafecitos, cafes, and you would see these people come in, executives, take the elevator and shoot on up. And then 20 years later, you were one of those executives, walked right by where you used to serve people coffee. And you talked about, I know we've had several conversations, you were swiping your badge and looking at the security guard, thinking, you know, is he going to kick me out? And then you get in the elevator and then you're up and you're like, I'm here. So talk us through that. What was that like? How did you overcome that imposter syndrome?
You know, I think that has been there throughout my career. I mean, everywhere I've been, and I think I heard Anne talk about it earlier. It's a real thing that we go through. So I read a lot. I really, really have a good circle around me. Look, you're part of my circle, my husband, my friends. I lean on relationships a lot, and I always have good, positive vibe around me. I never let things get too hard for me. I'm able to step myself out of every situation because of, you know, my family. I'm going to say it again. They are my driving force. And at the end of the day, I get to come home to a beautiful home and, adorable children, handsome husband. I think that my job doesn't make me who I am. And as you know, honestly, this is the first time I talk about me. I've been in many other conferences before to talk about, you know, what I do, but I live a very private life and a good life when I'm around the people that I love. So I think that has helped me navigate a lot of the challenges that I've had throughout my life and throughout my career. It's funny that you mentioned that story because I was really shaking that day when I went to the office, and I was afraid that my badge wasn't going to work, because if you're from the city and if you work in that environment, you know, you have the blue colors and you have the people upstairs, and you walk through the hallways, you see the guards and you see the elevator banks, but you know, you don't dare even get close to those hallways. So being there, I was literally shaking, and it was not planned. It just happened. I didn't even realize until that day that had just happened to me. I mean, yeah. There's so many prestigious people here with so many prestigious jobs, but it was not the end of the world. But for me, thinking back, remembering those people and how I used to serve them and how I used to admire them and dream that I could be one of them, but I thought it was just a dream, that it couldn't really happen to me. So it was kind of shocking. But
I mean, I can just picture it. I really feel like it could be a movie. It probably already is.
Probably
where you're in the cafe, and then 20 years later, you're going up the elevator in 30 Rock, of all places. So it's just absolutely mind-boggling. So did you have that again at Lockheed Martin?
Yeah, you know, I've always felt really proud of every accomplishment. My family makes me feel proud for my accomplishments. At Lockheed, I don't know that I had an aha moment. I was very focused on doing a good job. I mean, it's an amazing company. I also have so many amazing relationships, so many mentors and champions and people who helped me along the way. But I was like really focused on just catching up. I felt that I was trying to always catch up. I came in and the same year that they did like massive hiring in 2000. And, I came in with a bunch of college students and they were like 21, 22. And there I was, coming in that entry level. So feeling totally behind the curve. But, I blended in with them, and I used that situation to my advantage because I brought so much more. I had done so much. I already had 2 kids. I already had a family. I was already managing projects without knowing that I was managing. I was managing my house projects, and, I had other jobs. So I really took that to my advantage to get me to fast track my career there. So I always had that sense of insecurity of like, what am I doing here?
That's remarkable that you were able to use your personal managing the kids and Bobby, and use that.
Yeah, definitely. My life experiences have helped me, navigate my career experiences, and have helped me also deal with some of my career experiences. Looking at what's important, like knowing what's truly important. There's so much to that. I mean, I can't even speak enough about it. It's like realizing that, I have so many dreams. I'm not done. I was watching the keynote, and Anne was amazing, by the way. I wrote so many things. She said something about being on her 3rd trimester or something like that. I wrote it down, but I feel like I'm on my early 3rd act. It's like, okay, I still have all this energy and I still want to do more. But at the end of the day, I know what's important. So
yeah,
that's why
that's incredible, because we didn't talk about this, but how do you balance that work life, especially right now during COVID? So you just started a new initiative because of at Telemundo. So what do you do? How do you give yourself to your job, because it's very demanding, and then also to your family because you're a mother and also a wife and an executive?
I would like to say that I've done a good job, but I haven't. I haven't done a really good job balancing, my work-life balance, because I'm always on the go doing so many different things. I call them more like work-life integration. I have integrated my family in a lot of what I do. Working at Lucky, I remember community, events and community outreach was very important. So my kids grew up going to volunteer for everything. So and my husband, we would go, paint houses. We would do all these kinds of things, and that became family tradition. Like my kids would look forward to that Babalu's, barbecue that they would get at the end of the day after repairing some house or something like that. So I've always tried to do that to integrate my family. I think COVID, it's kind of weird because although I'm doing a lot of work, it's go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. But I'm finding that I'm balancing a little better. I'm home and I'm finding myself putting my computer down, putting my technology away, even if it's late, and watching a crazy TV. I watch really reality TV or something, detox, and I'm doing that. I've had days, so I have evolved over the years, and I think COVID has really brought it home for me. It's like after all this, it could be over like that. So I think that there has been more balance now than ever, even though I'm a lot busier now than ever. It's really weird, but I'm home and I'm integrating with the family. I'm having, I'm getting my teenager to, now he started drinking coffee. So I'm making his coffee for him. This is a moment that we're having that we didn't have before, so I'm finding the way to keep a little bit of a balance.
Yeah. We got to get Bobby in here for commentary later.
I know, right?
By the way,
he'll be like, no, she doesn't balance anything.
If you want.
What's that?
He said, I see him attending this session. I can bring him onto the stage if you want.
Nalby.
That's okay with me.
Oh my God, let's hear it. It's like,
Honey.
what was that old Family Feud, not Family Feud, like Newlyweds, the Newlywed Game.
Newlyweds.
Which, by the way, you guys do act like newlyweds. I don't know. How do you keep that magic? Because I've hung out with both of you by myself through business trips in Miami, and I don't know how you guys keep that newlywed charm. You really do. You play off of each other. You're very loving. You're laughing. You're giggling. He's playing with your hair. You like poke at him. You guys are you're like high schoolers.
No, I mean, we've been through just like any relationship, I'm sure. There's been a lot of peaks and valleys, and there's been a lot of highs and some lows, and we just kind of, going with the flow. But again, being together, I've known him, he's forever. Like, I can't remember life. Without kids. Like, I've had kids the last almost 30 years, it's kids and family. So we have a really good thing going. But yeah, I was remembering we have a huge network of like our family. It's it's amazing, and we're close to them. And some of them are in Thailand. His family is from Thailand, and we connect with them at night. My family in the Dominican Republic, in New York. We try to keep the youngsters like you. I love it when you come down. I mean, we stay up and we go drinking and we do these things. We act, it's great.
We're embarrassed by
Yeah, it's great.
So this is a good segue into another question that I have, which is the feedback. So feedback, good or bad, and your community, your village that you've built, your family. Good things, bad things. You said in your story that you had someone higher up that said something very personal, that they were trying to help you. It could have crushed you. How did you take it? It feels like, knowing you, it feels like you took this good and bad and you used it equally. You didn't say it was nice. It's almost like you didn't process whether it was good or bad. You were just using it as fuel. And that's what I got from your story every time I've heard it, that you took this feedback and you didn't matter if it was good, bad. You didn't even take the second to even give it a second thought. You were just using it as fuel. Like, all right, that's another thing. I'm going to put another log in the fire to fire me up to get to my next challenge. So how did you do that? How did you, because it's hurtful. It's hurtful when someone says something personal about your appearance, which that predecessor did. I mean, you didn't cry. You didn't get vindictive.
I didn't say that I didn't cry. I probably did cry, not in front of them. Well, like someone asked me a while ago. I think I was doing one of those. I don't know if it was like a personality thing. We were doing something at work, and when they ask you what's your superpower, I'm like, I don't have any superpowers, but. And then I was reflecting, and I'm like, I think that I always assume good intent in people, and I always do. And if Bobby knows that we have those conversations when he's like, oh, you're always thinking, you're always looking at and I think life is easier when you do, because if you're always, it's on them. If they don't have good intent, it's not on me. It's actually on them. So I don't have to carry that burden. So I think that's in my personality. And I think with that specific example, after I got over the shock, I started thinking and rationalizing in my mind, why would this person go out of his comfort zone and share something like that? I mean, he had to have some interest in it. I mean, people don't wake up, and maybe he did, but the way I rationalized it is like, people don't wake up every day and say, I'm just going to say something really mean to this person. Just, this person that's doing all this great work for me, and I'm going to tell him all these great things, but then I'm going to jab him. So I think internally I rationalized, and I put myself in his shoes, and I was like, well, and I swear this was my rationality. It had to be really hard to give someone that kind feedback, because I could tell once he saw my reaction that he almost regretted giving me that feedback. He's like,
Really?
no, but it's all good. And then he follow up by offering help. Like, but you know, we could pay for this, we could do this. Like, it was, so I think that it was that reaction and me like recognizing, not taking it that personal, although it was personal, that, you know, I was just like, people can be that mean just because. And I worked through that. And I think it turned out to be a very, for me, it was very advantageous, because at that point I could have done a lot of things. I could have retaliated. I could have done a lot of things that, you know, maybe could work to some sort of advantage. But by me taking action and learning more about myself and, you know, learning a little bit more about executive presence and things like that, I grew tremendously. And I was able to get a better job after that. I mean, so I think if I had to tell anyone, I mean, everyone is different. And I tell my employees that. It's funny because that's one thing. I'm like, let's assume good intent. You know, when they come to me and there's something going on, you know, Telemundo, and I'm like, okay, let's assume good intent. And when you start with that, I mean, you free yourself from so much. It's no longer on you, it's on them.
Yeah. And in case anyone's wondering, I think what they said was something about your hair, because you're also, I mean, you've got beautiful hair that gets curly.
More like an executive presence. You know, like I didn't have that, you know, and I didn't. Oh, let's be honest. I mean, I was always focused. I never had really mentors. I didn't have strong women teaching me the way. You know, so the reality is that sometimes tough feedback is good feedback. It's just how it's delivered and how you know, offer solutions for fixing that problem. I actually learned a lot. I learned a lot what not to do, of course, what not to say, but I also learned a lot what to do, because, you know, shame on you if a person has so many qualities, but there's some other things that are blockers for them, and you just look away. Yeah. So I think, you know, that resonates with me. But I've always looked at life that way. Assume good intent.
That's beautiful. So taking risks. Let's talk about all the risks you've taken. You went to college with, was it one kid or two kids?
By the time I went back to school, I had two kids. I had one in elementary school and one that was a toddler when I went back to get my bachelor's degree. And girl. Then when I got I'll never forget, like when that old boss told me, you know, it was almost like a gossiping. He was like, hey, you know, like, this is what's happening. I'm leaving, you know, and the way he said it was really funny. It's like, you're so smart. I mean, you really want to be working for Joe? Like something like that. He was like, and I was like, I can't. I really can't. I have 3 kids. I had 3 kids at the time. It's like working for a hospital was so hard. I mean, you're like 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days. It's nonstop. And I had a baby. And I remember his encouragement and him saying something to me like, I'm not asking you to go to Harvard, you know, just, you know, check that box, you know, go get it done because you want to get on that succession plan. So he gave me like tough love, unsolicited. And I took it and I went for it. Yeah.
How did you manage to do that? How did you and Bobby coordinate?
It was hard. It was hard. But it's funny because life started like to change for us. It was for the first 12 years that we knew each other. We were married. You know, he was we were focused on his career and everything. Like we moved so many times I quit so many jobs and I had the babies and all that. So I was a stay-home mom first before anything else. But then when I graduated from college and I was like, I'm going to focus, I'm going to do this. So he was like, I'm behind you, let's do it. So it's been like, so I sort of have taken now the lead on that career path, and then we've always like helped each other out a lot.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Bobby.
I don't recommend it though. Like 3 kids, 2 full-time jobs and all that, but but it's good. No, we've been a good help for each other.
That's absolutely nuts. So let me recap in case we lost track of all the roadblocks.
We're just talking to each other.
You said you lost your father. Your mother immigrated. You came to this country without knowing the language. Graduated high school, then tried to go to college, decided you were going to take a break, got married, had a kid, went back to college, then remind me where we are right now, because that's a lot.
Went back to school, graduated. I was in my almost 30. I remember my first year in that company where they celebrated my 30th. And I was like, wow. I fell behind. It was funny because I fell behind the curve, but I was still in my department, like, because it's a very old school company, like the youngest person there. But I remember, I'll always remember, it's like that being 30 and feeling like, I have a lot to catch up. And I have, all this, but I mean, life has worked out. You just do your thing, you work, you learn, and, you go for what you want. I mean, at the end of the day, you just got to get up and do it. A good friend of mine always told me, it's like running. The hardest part is, getting up and tying up your shoelaces. Once you do that and walk out the door, you got it. So, it's just like staying focused and going and doing the next thing.
That's awesome. So parting words, Nalby, now that we've recapped some of your challenges. I didn't even get to the master's with 3 kids and married with a husband with a full-time job.
All living the COVID life now, all in small apartment on top of each other.
Right across from the arena. So if anyone wants to go see a basketball game, you can grab Nalby afterwards and have a
call me.
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
Literally put that to heart. But what would you say? What are your parting words, Nalby?
No, I mean, I just have to say, again, I never thought of my story being unique. I thank you for encouraging me to even thinking about it. I have to be honest, when I started writing things down, because I wanted to tell it like a story, it was very emotional to me. I couldn't get through the stories, and I had to delete a lot of things that I had, and I just couldn't get past that sentence. But it's been a lot of reflection. So I want to thank you and the organization for having me here and giving me the opportunity to share my story. And like I said earlier, I was 30, but that's when I started. I have accomplished so much more, and I know so much more. So it's not when how you start, is it's the ending that really matters. So
yeah, absolutely, on the journey.
Yeah. Hey, Shanti.
Hey, ladies, that was an interesting discussion. I do have some Q&A, so I'll have to rush through it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see any, so I was just talking.
Sorry.
I'm trying to keep...
Sorry, we're just talking.
No worries. I am going to make it little interesting, and I'm going to call the person onto the stage to see if they can ask the question directly instead of me.
Okay. Love it.
Whoever has put the Q&A, please be ready. I may bring you onto the stage as speaker. Turn on your microphone and camera, and you're good to go. All right?
All right.
Michelle, I'm going to bring you onto the stage, and please, we have already spoken, so let's get this done.
Wow, I would take a sip of wine now, Nalby, if I were
I
you.
know, me too. This is the time.
All right, I'm gonna.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. So, Nalby, thank you so much for sharing your story. I would share with you that I needed to hear it today. Really, all of what I walked away with was, no matter what, you always gave yourself permission to dream, and you were always working toward it. So, thank you for that. My question is, you find these moments where you're at a crossroads and you have to make a decision on, what am I going to do next? And you did this many times within your story. Are there some specific tactics that you use to help weigh your decisions and decide which direction that you're going to go?
I tell you, I didn't even know this. Like, I know the official thing that you're supposed to have mentors and the different kinds of mentors. I have always had a board of directors around me. I have always had people that I trust, and I know that they have my best interests at heart. So I have the champion, that tells me what to do. I have the family member. I have the friend. I always have that person that tells me like it is. I confide in my husband. So it's the people that I have around me that helps me like work through my fears. And I just always take that deep breath and I go for it. Until I wrote things down, I didn't realize that I have had so many risks, taken so many risks in my life. Honestly, like when I was like writing things, I thought that I just been playing it safe, mom of 3 kids and all that. But I think it's just like trusting. I also have a lot of faith. So, faith, family, friends. So that's what really drives. I don't have a written tactic. I rely on the people around me a lot.
A lot of intuition. Well,
Yeah.
It served you well, and thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll let Michelle go. I'm going to add Eva. I have been messaging, but I have not heard back from her. Eva, if you're there, I'm going to bring you onto the stage. Just turn your camera and microphone on, and please feel free to ask your question.
Perfect. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Eva. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You're so authentic in what you were sharing, and just watching you talk through it, and your thoughts about how you persevered is such an inspiration. And when you were talking throughout the whole process, I was asking myself, what kept you motivated? Because I'm sure there were times when you wanted to give up, but that inner strength that you had to just keep going. What was that greatest motivation you had?
I said it before, it's really my family. I mean, it's really, I'm a dreamer. I have to say, aside of my personality, also, I'm very creative. I think of things. I dream a lot of things. That's why I'm in the career that I'm in technology. So I'm one of these people that I'm like, oh, we can do this, this, and that. Let's go make it happen. So I've always been a dreamer. But I mean, my motivation, it's really the people that matter. It's like, I know that it's almost like I'm not doing it just for me. Whenever I'm doing, and I'm just giving you the truth, because if I'm not gonna, I've never had like a plan, like a career plan or anything like that. I've just been very, I have trusted my instinct. I have trusted the people around me, and and I dream. I mean, I still remember dreaming when I was, watching people skate in Rockefeller Center. It's like, oh my gosh, like what it would be like. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know that I could afford things. I mean, it's almost like not, like just going for it my whole life. I'm that person that asks the question, and I take the deep breath, and, when they say that, ask for forgiveness later. I don't know what the saying is, but I am that. Yes, I am that. I just go for it, and I've always tried to do my best, but I've always think about the people around me. That's what really drives me.
Wow, thank you for sharing your story with all of us. I know you said this was your first time sharing the story, but we were inspired. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was so nervous. I've talked about technology before, but never really.
Yeah.
That was personal.
Nalby, you were like natural, and maybe that's what it is. Your confidence comes from within. Eva, I'm going to take you off the stage, and Hoa.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you.
Hoa, I'm going to add you onto the stage, and if you can please turn on your camera and microphone, that would be great. I don't see her, so maybe she's off already. Okay, so I think we're done.
Yes, Paola, thank you for always teaching me. I have to say, this girl is amazing. Thank you for asking for forgiveness, not permission. So thank you. You have been a blessing in my life, and I really appreciate you, Shanti, and everyone else here for giving me the opportunity.
Birds of a feather stick together. All right, enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining, and you guys have a good evening. By the way, Nalby, if this was happening in person, we would have given you a bottle of wine.
Next year.
We are actually going to donate on your behalf to the North Texas Giving Day. So if you can give us the charity of your choice or ATW, one of that, and
yes,
we donate to that.
Awesome. That is so special. Thank you so much. I will, for sure.
And to all the attendees, once this presentation is off, you guys will be back on the floor. There is a back to the main floor button. Just click on it and you can go back to the main floor, go to the next set of sessions that are available, and also you can choose to network. All right. Good night, ladies, and thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Paola.
You guys are amazing. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.